Hi, friends. Cole here with another midweek message from Selkirk United Church. Today is Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. Apparently, with everything else going on in the world right now, there is a federal election coming up in September, less than a month away now, Monday, September 20th. I'm sure there will be so much election information coming at you from all sides over the next 4 weeks that you'll be thoroughly sick of it soon enough. But let me just jump in early on and answer a question that I'm sure at least one or two of you must be asking, and that is, Cole, does our United Church of Canada have anything to say about the election? Well, I'm glad you asked. We do, in fact. Now, don't forget, the United Church is made up of all sorts of people from all sorts of places with all sorts of backgrounds, and likely we span the whole spectrum of all different political stripes and parties. So we're not going to back a particular party as a whole denomination, but our church does have some things to say about some of the issues facing our country and its people. We always have, and I'm sure we always will. To give you just a taste of that, I want to read something that came from Reverend Kate Jones from Two Rivers Pastoral Charge in New Brunswick. Kate says that they have a committee called the Church in the World Committee, and that committee put together a 2-page document summarizing some of the election issues. So let me share what that document has to say. Starts off with a quote from Prophet Jeremiah from the Old Testament, chapter 29, verse 7. Jeremiah writes, "But seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare." That's from Jeremiah. And then it continues, "As followers of Jesus, we are called to love God with our whole being and to love our neighbors as ourselves." You can look up Matthew 22, 34 to 40, Mark 12, 28 to 34, Luke 10, 25 to 37. Those are all passages that talk about loving our neighbors as ourselves and loving God with our whole being. Casting a vote in an election, federal, provincial, or local, is one way that we can actively live our love for our neighbors. We need to care not only about ourselves, we need to care about the people around us. We need to love our neighbors in all of our actions, which includes voting in an election. In addition, as the prophet Jeremiah points out, the welfare of one is the welfare of all. We as a country will only prosper when everyone prospers. There's a chart on this page of theirs, and in it, there's an exploration of 5 different issues in the 2021 federal election. There are many other issues in this election. This is just a start. But with each issue, we will find a theological rationale, or why should we care about this issue as followers of Jesus, followed by some questions that we could ask our local candidates when deciding how we will cast our votes. Again, we aren't telling you how to vote, says the page. Instead, we are encouraging you to engage in the electoral process as an act of faith. Loving our neighbors is at the heart of who we are as followers of Jesus. Okay, so let's find this chart. The first issue that it talks about is why we should care. Questions to ask candidates on Indigenous justice. We as the church were involved in running residential schools. We therefore have an obligation to be actively involved in reconciliation. Jesus had a ministry of healing. We as the church, the body of Christ, are called to participate in the work of healing and reconciliation. What specific actions of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission are you planning to work on or implement? Is one question you could ask the candidates. Here's another. If elected, when will there be clean drinking water on all reserves? And another, how will you ensure that Canadian laws are changed to reflect the recent adoption of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People? The second issue that it names is climate justice and the environment. We are part of the community of God's creation, and as stewards of creation, we are called to advocate for parts of creation who have no voice. Climate change and environmental destruction tend to disproportionately impact people who are already marginalized. Here are 3 questions for the candidates. What specific actions will you and your party take in response to the present climate crisis? Is climate change and environmental degradation a top priority for you and your party? And do you have plans to increase natural protected areas? If so, by how much? The third issue is anti-racism. All people are created in God's image and deserve equal rights and opportunities. The United Church of Canada is committed to becoming an anti-racist church, committed to working to dismantle racism within ourselves and in the world around us. Here are questions. What specific actions do you and your party plan in order to create more racially just, equitable, and accessible systems and services? And how do you and your party plan to work with federal institutions such as RCMP, military, to support them in becoming anti-racist institutions? Next issue, poverty eradication. Jesus spent his life ministering to people on the margins, people who were oppressed by the government, people who were sick, people who were living in extreme poverty. Jesus calls us to care for people on the margins as if we were caring for Jesus himself. And that quotes Matthew 25, verse 40. The COVID-19 pandemic has increased income insecurity for many people and put many people at risk for poverty. Here are some questions for the candidates. How will your party's economic plan benefit people living in poverty? Will you and your party implement a guaranteed livable income for all? And how do you and your party plan to eradicate poverty in Canada? There may be other issues that you are passionate about: world peace, disarmament, refugee rights, resource extraction, sexual exploitation, global vaccine distribution, healthcare transfer payments, among many others. The page says, we invite you to consider these issues through the lens of your faith, why God is calling you to care about these issues and how God is calling you to act. Good questions to ask your candidates include, what is your party's policy on whatever issue interests you? How will your party enact legislation on it? And how will you ensure that the issue is part of the government agenda going forward? Why should we ask questions of our candidates? Candidates' answers may help you decide how you will vote. Questions that you ask may open the candidates' eyes to issues that they hadn't considered previously. Asking questions during the campaign can help build a foundation for an ongoing relationship after the election. And asking questions can bring ignored and underrepresented issues into conversations. People of faith can change the conversation and challenge candidates to be their best selves by the questions that we ask. How can we ask questions of the candidates? Questions can be asked at all candidates' meetings, in person or virtual. Questions can be asked when the candidates come to your door. Questions can be asked by seeking out candidates at campaign events, or by dropping into campaign offices or emailing the candidate directly. For more information on these issues or on the connection between faith and politics, you can visit the United Church of Canada website. And when you're at the website, you can search for community and faith. And then under the section Get Involved, there's a section called Faith and Politics. So that's United Church of Canada website, Community and Faith, then Get Involved, then Faith and Politics. And that should take you right to the right page. And that's it for today. Stay well, everyone. God be with you, and I'll see you again next time.